What is happening? Did Israel really end the war? Are we calling it a victory or surrender? And why are terrorists being released again? And what's going to happen now in Gaza? I know you're asking these questions. A lot of people want to know, what is this hostage deal all about? That's why we're here. I'm going to explain it all to you. Shalom from Israel. I'm Hananya Naftali with the latest update from the Middle East. So the answer is yes. Israel is ending the war. And I have to say, I'm kind of worried about the pro-Palestine activists. I mean, what are they going to do now? Israel is ending the war, just like they screamed and cried for in the streets of London, New York, and other Western cities. So now that it's actually happening, they're furious. Because let's just be real. They never wanted peace. They wanted the war to keep going so that they could keep protesting. Screaming ceasefire now made them feel like heroes. But now that there's an actual end to the war, what are they going to do? I'm just going to say, they were never pro-peace. They're just anti-Israel. And before we go any further, make sure to subscribe to my channel. If you want more truth bombs that you want here on CNN or Al Jazeera, make sure you're subscribed. Let's get into it. Here's what you need to know first. All 48 remaining hostages, 20 living and 28 dead, are going to be returned to Israel. That, according to the deal, they must be returned 72 hours after the deal was signed. And the deal was also approved by the Israeli government. And in exchange, Israel is releasing 250 Palestinian terrorists serving life sentences and 1,700 Gazans detained during the war, who, according to reports, were not involved in the October 7 massacre. Although I do have my opinion on that. I think any Palestinian that crossed the border from Gaza to Israel on that day participated in the October 7 massacre. Let's not sugarcoat it. Now, let's talk timing. Friday noon, obviously the time passed. The ceasefire took into effect. We are already now in this phase 1 of the ceasefire. By Sunday, IDF completes its partial withdrawal to the yellow line, which is 47% of Gaza, to allow humanitarian aid and secure hostage transfer. By Monday noon, hostages living and dead must be released. Now, here's where I'm just going to say that Hamas said that they may not know where all the dead hostages are, and that they may need time to look and find for them. I don't know what Israel said to that. I think that there's going to be an international team that will make sure that this is actually happening, that we're looking for the dead hostages if they don't know where they actually are. But bottom line, I don't care. If the deal says that all of them must be released, then all of them must be released. After that, after they are released and brought back to Israel, Israel releases the Palestinian terrorists, and the international task force begins operations in Gaza to stabilize and secure the post-war phase. Now, some of you might ask, Hananya, how can you support this? Terrorists are going free for hostages. Look, we either bring our people home now, or we risk never bringing them back at all. And we are choosing life, even at this unimaginable price. And I will explain in a moment the other argument, which goes against it, so to say, which also makes sense. I'm going to talk about that, but look, this is not the Shalit deal. For those of you that remember, in 2011, we released 1,027 terrorists, including Yahya Sinwar, the notorious leader of Hamas that we eliminated. We released all of them for one soldier. This time, we are getting 48 hostages for 250 lifers, and the rest are Gazans who were detained in the war and did not murder Israelis. Hamas actually demanded Israel, by the way, to release its top terrorists from prison. But Israel said that's not going to happen. They said, We said no to the Sinwar brothers, no to Marwan Barghouti, no to the worst of the worst. And let me say it. This is not capitulation. This is surgical compromise. We kept the monsters behind bars. And look, these were not easy decisions. There are families in Israel who are now reliving the worst day of their lives, learning that the murderers of their parents, children, and siblings walk out of prison as part of this deal. It's a wound ripped open again. And the pain is unbearable. We owe those families our tears, our prayers, and our honesty. This hurts. But in Judaism, the value of life is everything. Pikuach nefesh. Saving a life overrides nearly every commandment. We are a people who mourn deeply, but we choose life defiantly. We bury our dead with dignity, but we fight for the living with everything we've got. And by the way, there are people in Israel who oppose the deal. Their argument is that freeing terrorists would lead to more attacks and could cost more lives in the future. Because terrorists don't change their minds in prison. They rarely do. And I do agree that unless we make sure with action the terrorists will never rule Gaza, that Hamas does not exist there or in Judea and Samaria, and that we uproot terrorism from the Palestinian society, unless we make sure of that, we will not win this war. And it might come back in the future. But now it's a turning point, and Israel can actually take this action with the backing of many nations to secure its borders, to take care of terrorism. It's not in vain that they say that being the Prime Minister of Israel is probably the toughest job in the world. And let's of course not forget how the actions of the far left in Israel gave Hamas the backing it so needed, the moment it waited for, to invade Israel, with all the protests against Netanyahu, the judicial reform, calling him a dictator and blocking roads illegally, with some trying to even call on IDF soldiers to stop serving in what they call the army of Netanyahu. That's a topic for another video, but I hope that my people have woken up to understand that we must be united in order to win and in order to exist. And we must keep this unity even after this war. And now to this question. What is the Israeli army going to do now in Gaza? So from what I understand, the army will remain in Gaza. It will withdraw from where it is now, but it will remain in a buffer zone between Israel and the Gaza Strip. Some people are calling this a surrender. I actually think the opposite. Look, after 2 brutal years of war, after 914 fallen soldiers, after endless nights of fighting, Israel achieved what no previous war could deliver. Actually, very few wars could deliver, and that's leverage. Real leverage. Hamas is not walking away with a victory. They're limping, bleeding, and shattered. Their command structure is decimated. Yahya Sinwar, gone. Muhammad Sinwar, gone. Abu Ubaidah, Muhammad Death, or all their top leadership is buried under the same tunnels they bragged about. And this war didn't stop at Hamas. Israel's Iron Fist came down hard on the entire Iranian axis. In Syria, Israel bombed and eliminated over 150 Iranian Quds Force militants and Assad-aligned militias, pushing Iran's regime out of Syria and leading to the collapse of the Assad regime. Now we have to see what's going to happen in Syria. In Lebanon, Hezbollah took the heaviest blows it absorbed since 2006. Key commanders killed, including their notorious leader Hassan Nasrallah, that hid deep underground in the heart of Beirut, the Dakhya neighborhood. Israel also hurt some 3,000 Hezbollah terrorists with the Pager operation. Rocket arsenal destroyed. The border villages used by Hezbollah along the border with Israel turned into ghost towns under IDF fire. In Iran itself, Israeli and American operations hit nuclear sites and ballistic missile facilities, including many precision strikes that destroyed 80% of Iran's aerial defenses, which helped Israel gain complete control over the Iranian airspace and sent the Iranian nuclear program back in time. The Iranian people are actually very happy about it. The Houthis in Yemen their missile stockpiles were smashed by joint strikes after threatening to block the Red Sea trade. They learned fast. When Israel says, "You're next," we mean it. Israel took out nearly the entire Houthi terrorist government in one strike. And all of this wasn't just random retaliation. It was strategic dismantling. Israel knows what it's doing. And just striking places and calling it a war, it's not smart. Israel knew what it was doing piece by piece. Israel and its allies dismantled the so-called axis of resistance that Iran spent decades building. And we're not done yet. The job is not finished, not yet. Unfortunately, Hamas still exists. Hezbollah in Lebanon is still in Lebanon, refusing to disarm for now. Iran is working to restore their missile factories. But for now, this phase ends with Israel in control of the clock. Not Hamas, not Iran. They may have started a war, but we are putting an end to it. A wise nation is a nation that knows when to hold the sword and when to use the pen. But it never drops either. The IDF repositioning is not an end to the war. It's a tactical reset. It's the launch pad for the next phase. Post-war governance, intelligence warfare, and yes, making sure Hamas never rises again. And I'll explain exactly what's going to happen to Hamas in just a bit. But I just have to say, their worst days of Hamas are still ahead, while the days ahead of us are brighter. This was the right moment to pull back. Not because, our enemy beat us, but because we crushed them hard enough to get what we needed. Our people home and our enemies on their knees. And here's where actually things get complicated, but also promising. President Trump's peace plan is not just about freeing hostages. It's about reshaping Gaza. And the plan includes an international stabilization force. We already got today, they landed 200 U.S. troops are already on the ground. I think they're joined by Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and possibly the UAE. Another point is a framework, part of the plan, for Hamas disarmament and de-radicalization. Netanyahu said that this is a key component to make sure that we don't get terrorism again from Gaza. We need to educate them to agree that, hey, it's okay that there is a Jew that's your neighbor. They're not a curse like you've been told. We're a blessing. And also to make sure that they can't rebuild their war machine. And yes, discussions are happening about what kind of civilian leadership will eventually govern Gaza. That's still being hammered out. But one thing is clear. Hamas is out. Hamas says that they reject foreign guardianship. They're not in a position to say what they want, what they reject. They got no money, no weapons, and no leverage left. And look, terrorists will always choose survival over ideology when they're staring down a barrel of complete annihilation. Gaza's future is still being written, but this time the pen is in Trump's hand, and the IDF made sure Hamas can't grab it back. And on that note, I have to say, President Donald J. Trump delivered. It was Trump, not Biden, not the UN, and definitely not France, and all the countries that recognize Palestine, who forced Hamas, Qatar, and Turkey into a room and brokered the most significant Middle East deal since the Abraham Accords. President Trump is going to fly to Israel. He's going to come on Monday. He'll speak at the Knesset, and let's be honest, he deserves to. You might not like his style, but nobody else could have pulled this off. Trump is the only leader who understands the region, and that the region is not about peace talks and fantasy solutions. It's about power. Peace through strength. And that's how we do it. So ending the war, especially with strength, not weakness, actually opens the door to something the enemies of Israel fear most. Normalization. When Arab and Muslim countries see that Israel defended itself with force, brought its hostages home, and didn't collapse under international pressure, it sends a powerful message. Israel is here to stay. And making peace with it is not betrayal, it's smart diplomacy. We've already seen how the Abraham Accords changed the region. Now imagine what could happen if Saudi Arabia, even countries like Indonesia or even Lebanon and Syria, start to reevaluate their positions. They don't have to do it out of love for Zionism, but out of a will to look after their people and build a better future. And I think that most countries understand that if you want a better future, you want to partner with Israel, because the God of Israel is the source of blessing. So while Hamas and Iran want endless conflict to keep Israel isolated, I actually think that peace between Israel and the Muslim world is the one thing that they cannot survive. So ending the war the right way doesn't just bring our hostages home, it could actually bring new alliances to the table. You know, in the Bible it says, to everything there is a season, a time for war, and a time for peace. This is not peace, but it may be the beginning of a season to rebuild. A season to mourn, yes, but also to hope. A season to honor the fallen by making sure the living can return. We are still seeing evil is rising from Gaza to Iran to global anti-Semitism, but we are also seeing prophecy unfold. Israel restored, surviving against all impossible odds. So, to conclude, this deal is not perfect, it hurts, but it saves lives, ends the war for now, and sets the stage for something bigger. Potentially peace, and not just stability. Hamas must not exist in Gaza. Hamas should actually become the new term in dictionary for the word defeat. They lost, and our hostages won their lives back. And on that note, I have to say, if you support truth, justice, and Israel's right to exist, then share this video, subscribe to my channel, and be a voice in the fight against lies and terror. And if you want to stand with Israel in an amazing, visible way, then I encourage you to visit theisraelstore.com. Every purchase helps us fight BDS. We're still in this battle. Support Israeli families and tell the haters we are not going anywhere. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for standing with Israel. I'll be here next time with more updates, truth, and strong opinions that the world needs to hear. I'm Israel.